No, it's okay.
I'm going to try maybe over here.
No, that's
the light's a little bright there.
No, it's okay. Now it's okay. Sitting is okay.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, so move me up about 2.
Okay, good. I see my friends up there. Yeah.
Just have to turn it on.
That is a Sioux honoring song. And when you honor one, like you heard me say, Mohonk Mountain House, when you honor one, you honor all. That's the philosophy.
Welcome back. Nina and I were just saying that my name is Dot Maver, for those whom I did not meet last evening. And we were just saying that there's a real sense of an anchoring, of a landing of something in this historic room today. Thank you for being part of that. So it gives me great joy at this moment to introduce a brother who is a dear friend, and I will say a living demonstration of peace. Philip walks his talk. Philip Hellmich is a thought leader in creating a new narrative of peace, from inner peace to international peace building. And as the director of peace at the Shift Network, Philip was the chief architect of the Summer of Peace, Yoga Day Summit, and World Peace Library, a resource that you might want to check out. Wonderful peace resource. These are online global forums that seek to inspire, inform, and involve people in the many ways that peace is emerging around the world. He's also a co-lead faculty with the Peace Ambassador training, which I've had the joy of participating in with him over the years. It's wonderful. And all of these peace programs provide skills training, inspirational stories, and powerful solutions from the world's top peace builders, social change leaders, scientists, indigenous elders, and spiritual mentors. Philip has dedicated most of his life, in fact, to global and local peace building initiatives, including 14 years with Search for Common Ground, and he served for 4 years as a Peace Corps volunteer in Sierra Leone, where he lived and worked in small, remote bush villages. He's a published writer, author of God and Conflict, A Search for Peace in a Time of Crisis. So it's a joy to welcome Philip, who will share with us a vision for peace, challenges, and successes. Please welcome Philip.
It is truly a gift to be here. I am so deeply touched by the Smiley family, the Mohonk Mountain House history. It's really deeply honoring. As Dot has said, we're standing on the shoulders of many people who have gone before us. And I want to thank Brad for the invitation here and everyone at the Mohonk Consultation for making this possible. This subject is Vision for Peace, Challenges, and Successes. For me, this is not an academic theory. This is very personal. I'm going to be sharing lots of stories from the last 3 decades and take us on a little journey. And I just want to say also it's really nice to have dear friends like Dr. Sakena Yacoobi here, and also our friends from the Hart and Jeffrey and Dot and others. So it's a family reunion. So to get started, I want to invite us to have a little shared experience. So similar to Nina, I want to invite you to just close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath in and exhale and relax. Take another deep breath in, exhale, and relax. Allowing the breath to come in and out on its own. And now I invite you to imagine the breath is coming in and out through your heart. And you're just breathing in and out through your heart. As you breathe in and out through your heart, think of someone that you love dearly and feel that love and gratitude you have for this person. And feel that love and gratitude radiating throughout the body. Imagine that love and gratitude radiating out to everyone here in this conference. The people watching online. And to all of life on earth. Radiating peace, love, and gratitude. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. I love starting with this exercise. This is an exercise adapted from a group called HeartMath. And HeartMath has studied the science of the intelligence of the heart. It's like a second brain. And what they've discovered is that the heart and the brain and the rest of the body are deeply connected. And that when we have negative emotions, fear and anger, that the brain, the amygdala, gets triggered and we go into fight, flight, and freeze. And by exercises like this, which is being taught in schools and hospitals and other places, what happens is we shift to a positive emotion. It sends a message to the amygdala, everything's okay. It opens up the higher faculties of the brains, and we can think through a wider range of options instead of fight, flight, and freeze. And also, we emit an energy field around us, which can be measured. And so when we start to emit an energy field of love and gratitude, others feel it. And when we do it as a group, we come into a coherence, which is the same frequency as the earth. There's a lot of science behind this. And so I wanted to start us off with just a little taste and a collective experience about the emerging science of art and science of peace around the world. And I love that we've already shared many definitions of peace, particularly right relationship with oneself, others, and all of life, with everything. Dot yesterday had read the United Earth Charter. Peace is the wholeness created by relationships with oneself, other persons, other cultures, other life, Earth, and the larger whole of which we are all a part. The Global Peace Index. Who's heard of the Global Peace Index? It measures the most and least peaceful countries in the world. Social science. And negative peace is the absence of violence or the fear of violence. And a positive peace is the attitudes, institutions, structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. These same factors also lead to many other positive outcomes that support the optimal environment for human potential to flourish. And we've heard about the rich history here at the Mohonk Mountain House of contributing to positive peace in these institutions. Now, the mystics in our indigenous brothers and sisters take us a little bit deeper. Black Elk said, the first peace is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers. And when they realize that the center of the universe is really everywhere, it is within each of us. The second piece is that which is made between two individuals, and the third is that which is made between two nations. But above all, you should understand that there can never be peace between nations until there is known that true peace which is within the souls of men and women. This is key, and this is going to be a theme throughout this talk about really bridging the deep inner with the international. My friend Dot Maver asked us in a conference a few years ago, what was peace building? I reflected after all these experiences that peace, love, and compassion are qualities of the soul. Peace, love, and compassion are qualities of the soul. Peace building is the art and science of awakening these soul qualities in practical ways that help to uplift humanity and all of life. And again, I'm going to come back to this again and again, that these soul qualities exist in all of us. They exist in our DNA, And the challenge is to awaken these soul qualities in practical ways. Head on the mountaintops and feet in the valley, as was said earlier. So let's make this personal. Again, I'm going to take us on a journey. This is not academic, so I want to introduce you to my family, who are watching online right now. I was born in rural Indiana, a farm and factory town, and I learned about peace building from my family. My father, here I am, I'm the fifth of 10 children, the only one planned. When asked if Catholic, my mom likes to say no sense of rhythm. My dad said, she loved me so much I couldn't keep her away from me. And my parents set the tone for us. My dad worked in a factory. My mom just ran this incredible household. And she once said, I knew if I kept you clean and you did your homework, people wouldn't laugh at you for being poor. We never felt poor. We felt rich in this incredible support. My older siblings set the examples for the rest of us to follow. Academics, athletics, all of us put ourselves through colleges, some graduate schools, and then family ceremonies where we stayed connected. Every morning, my mom sends out a message saying, good morning, this is what's going on with the extended family. We have messages throughout the day, and then at night she sends messages how many steps she took, because she just recovered from her open heart surgery. And then everybody replies and says good night. So my family really taught me about being connected, supporting one another. They always said, help your neighbors, particularly the elderly, the people who need help. Mom, never, all white county, never allowed us any bigotry or anything. So that's the foundation and I thank my family for that. Because after college, I went off to the Peace Corps, Sierra Leone, West Africa. How many people have heard of Sierra Leone? Okay. So instead of 2 years, I stayed 4 years. And I lived in two small remote bush villages, Cagberry and Masongbo, about 300 people, 30 houses deep in the bush, no electricity, no running water, subsistent farmers who lived on less than $1 a day, who grew most of their own food. And my friends there radically shifted my life. We often ate together. I'm the guy with the glasses and curly hair there. These are my friends. And it was so funny because coming from an all-white county, suddenly I didn't see any of this anymore. I just saw my friends, and they saw me, and they opened their hearts to me. They opened their homes and their way of life. And what I noticed after time is that life was ruled by rhythms. The rhythms of the moon, the rhythms of the rainy season. On a new moon night, in the rainy season, it'd be so dark I could not see my hand in front of my face without a lantern. And on a full moon night, in the dry season, there'd be so much village electricity, kids would be out playing all night long. The rhythms of the crops, hungry season, people working hard physical labor with little food to eat, and then harvest season, bounty and celebration. There was also the cycles of life and death, with 1 in every 4 or 5 children dying before the age of 5, some harsh realities. And then there was also this close relationship with nature. Besides the crops, people knew every place in the bush and the different spirits and animals that lived in the bush. And then they also had secret spiritual societies. Everyone was either Christian or Muslim, but everyone belonged to a secret society that would initiate young boys and girls into adulthood. And I would sit in bed at night and listen to this drumming and chanting, knowing that these kids were learning about what does it mean to be an adult in this family, in this community? What does it mean to have relationships with the spirits in the bush and the ancestors? And what are the herbs and so forth in the bush that can help people? And it wasn't until I came back to the United States that I realized after 4 years how much I had changed. My poor family met me at this time, and I came back because in Sierra Leone, again, no electricity, no running water, a little bit of shortwave radio. Suddenly, boom, there was like just so much media everywhere. Television went from a handful of stations to dozens and now hundreds. There were billboards and advertisements everywhere saying, you have to have this to be happy, you have to have this to avoid suffering. Now I'm sitting back thinking, my friends back in the village had this sense of connection and belonging, even though life was hard. And I was so confused. Why do we need to buy and consume all these different things? Going to the grocery store was overwhelming, the amount of food, and then seeing waste and seeing the garbage put out every week. And I'm sitting here, that comes from someplace. We're impacting the environment. We're impacting people around the world. How many people ever donate clothes to Goodwill Salvation Army? You know, I do it. Did you know they can't sell all of that, so it gets dumped on the market in Sierra Leone and all across the world, and the local textile companies cannot compete? I once saw a man deep in the bush who didn't speak English but had a shirt on and said, baby on board. You know, it just taints the culture. So our life, I knew the American dream, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, via massive consumerism was impacting the rest of the world. This is back in 1989. And at the same time, people seemed to have less time to connect with one another, let alone follow the stages to the moon or connect with the environment. So I was really confused, and I went to stay with my brother and his family in Florida. And at this time, I happened to come across a place called the Temple of the Universe. So here I am coming out of the bush, and I meet this man named Michael A. Singer, who later wrote 2 New York Times best-selling books. You may want to take a picture of this slide. The Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment. Mickey he goes by Mickey Singer, had this small software company with maybe a dozen employees, and over the years I saw it grow to several thousand employees, over $1 billion company that later became WebMD. And I would go into, and Mickey would talk about these expanded states of consciousness and this universal intelligence. And I went to ask Mickey, he's like, how can you talk about this when the world is the way it is? And he would ask me, who asked you how it should be? He said, if Pluto is orbiting in a way you don't like, what are you going to do about it? And then he said there are hundreds of billions of stars and planets in the galaxy and hundreds of billions of galaxies. Now it's estimated over 2 trillion galaxies. And he said it's all guided by a universal intelligence. And if you turn to that intelligence, it will guide your life in ways you never imagined. And he said it may even take you back to Africa in a way you couldn't imagine. So this really started an inquiry, this inner inquiry about this pursuit of happiness, which led me to the autobiography of a yogi, and then started to meditating 2 to 3 hours a day for the last almost going on 29, 30 years. So I started to really try to understand what is it that drives us to pursue happiness, and how do we find that peace and happiness? And I kept working on peace building, worked in Washington, D.C., then I joined Search for Common Ground, one of the world's largest conflict transformation organizations in the world. And in 1998, they asked me if I wanted to go back to Sierra Leone on an assessment mission. Sierra Leone had fallen into a bloody, chaotic civil war starting back in 1991, and the news coming from Sierra Leone was horrific. When I left Sierra Leone, it was one of the most peaceful places in the world. When I went back, this is what I met. This young boy was 8 years old, been fighting for 2 years. These young boys sacked one of the villages I lived in and were in a unit commanded by a teenage boy named Colonel Rambo, who was trained by watching Rambo movies. Both villages I lived in had been sacked. One house had been destroyed by a rocket-propelled grenade. Friends had died. Most of them were beaten. What little they had was taken. And many of the women were raped. I started making extensive trips to Sierra Leone, Liberia, Congo, Rwanda, Guinea, Angola, all across sub-Saharan Africa between 1998 and 2007. I had so much pain and anger and confusion about how could children be turned into weapons of war, and how could this happen, particularly to people that I loved dearly, who were like my family. And this led an inquiry going deeper into meditation, and with a mentor, Dr. Rick Levy, really started to explore. I could see the world is more interdependent and interconnected today than ever before. Through our technology, we have become so vastly connected. As was said earlier, and I would just really would appreciate Tecumseh with that prayer this morning, we are connected. What happens in one part of the world affects people in the other parts of the world. And I could see how the rampant lack of inner peace and the Western pursuit of happiness via massive consumerism is wreaking havoc on the environment and contributing to conflicts over natural resources. We can see it on climate change, and I'll come back to this a little bit later. And Sierra Leone, the war was fueled, in part, it wasn't the root cause, it was fueled by blood diamonds. Who's seen the movie Blood Diamonds? Unfortunately, it's incredibly accurate. Timber trade being bought up by the international market, and then weapons being dumped all across Sierra Leone and other places. The UN Security Council, those countries are the highest exporters of weapons in the world. The Soviet Union had dissolved and was just dumping weapons, buying up diamonds and timber trade, some of it legal, a lot of it illegal. And so I could see Sierra Leone, Congo, places with any natural resources, oil. We see what's been happening in the Middle East with Iran, Standing Rock. So there's this relationship between this pursuit of happiness and the way we're doing it that's impacting the world. And so I went deeper into the inquiry, came across a quote from Albert Einstein. It says, we are all part of the universe. We have our thoughts and our emotions, we identify with them, and that forms an optical delusion where we feel separate. He says, our challenge is to expand our circle of compassion to embrace all of humanity and all of life. Tara Brach, a Buddhist meditation instructor and psychologist, said, we have our thoughts, we have our emotions, we identify with them, we feel separate. And with that sense of separation comes the wanting self. I want to be happy, I want to avoid suffering. This is running every person on the planet. And when we do that, we start doing it outside of ourselves, which naturally leads to conflict. Kids see the same toy, sometimes they'll fight over it. Ideally, we learn to share. We hit adolescence, we have all these hormones, and then we become attracted, we don't know what to do, and then there's conflict. And so that is driving us. But when you take that natural tendency of wanting to be happy, wanting to avoid suffering, and then you take it and you put it on steroids through massive advertising, you must have all of these things, it creates what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. We go out to have an experience, to have this rush of energy. And then when that energy passes, we go out and get it again. So we go out and buy something, buy something, buy something, or do something, do something. And then when we're constantly looking outside of ourselves, we get on a hedonic treadmill, and we go faster and faster and faster. And when we do that, we often isolate ourselves. We feel less connected. And happiness, psychologists are coming from a sense of connection with other people and life and nature. And so many scientists are saying we are in the midst of a global spiritual crisis. But fortunately, I was working with Search for Common Ground, which was doing this amazing peace-building work. In Burundi, which is right next to Rwanda, within a year of the genocide in Rwanda, they had Hutus and Tutsis co-producing radio programs. And they had a program called Our Neighbors Ourselves. And I could see they were awakening compassion, reaching 90% of a country, awakening compassion, the same compassion that's talked about in all the different spiritual traditions. And in Sierra Leone, we copied what was going on there and then adapted it in Liberia and created a talking drum studio. Talking drums being the indigenous forms of communication. And there was a program called Golden Kids News, and they had children producing radio programs. So here's coming out of a war, thousands of child soldiers. Suddenly, here's a former child soldier, and then, women, girls who'd been sex slaves, and other children producing radio programs, interviewing the president of the country, reaching 89% of the country, having measurable results of shifting attitudes, and then combining that with music and other ways and on-the-ground mediation. These programs, and we had partnered with Sesame Street, which was fun to hear earlier, Sue talking about Sesame Street, were able to measure the change in attitudes, and we were finding it was possible to awaken compassion, tolerance, and forgiveness and ground it in practical ways. And through reflecting on this, started to look at there is a spirit of peace that lives in the hearts and souls of every human in all of life on earth. There is.
Yeah.
And Search for Common Ground believe
Uh-huh.
Search for Common Ground is brilliant. I mean, you want to check out their work, their operating principle. They believe they would find people in any conflict who wanted peace and were willing to bridge divides, and they found those people. I met hundreds, if not thousands, of people doing this bravely in Africa and other parts of the world, but we don't see them in the news. We don't hear this aspect as much. And when given the opportunity, people will seek common ground and work for peace. I saw it time and time again. Imagine Hutus and Tutsis working together. Sierra Leone had former army officers from opposing sides working side by side. And when that goes out onto the airwaves, I asked Fred Alan Wolf, a quantum physicist, once. I said, if we have these programs that are showing the possibility of compassion and tolerance and cooperation, from a quantum physics perspective, what's happening? He says that is creating that possibility of existing in society. So I started to see that Search for Common Ground was leveraging ancient spiritual wisdom, modern quantum physics, and modern neuroscience. And I really wanted to understand this more. And then also, you know, people like Kimmy Weeks. Kimmy Weeks was 9 years old in Liberia, in a refugee camp during a war. They thought he was dead. They threw his body on a mass grave. His mother came looking for him, found him, and Kimmy looked up into her eyes, and he said, I don't want this to ever happen to any mother. He dedicated his life to peace. And when he got well, he went around and cleaned the camp. Every opportunity, you know, he just looked and looked and looked for ways to serve. And when he was 16 years old, he walked into the Talking Drum Studio office in Liberia and said, I'm Kimmy Weeks. I'm the Minister for Information for Children and Youth, and my friends and I produce this little radio program called Golden Kids News. Our staff listened to it and said, you know, Kimmy, the quality's not that great yet, but the idea is brilliant. That's the program that started in Liberia, replicated in Sierra Leone, been replicated in 20-some countries around the world, and he's received the highest honor of peace given in Liberia. That spirit of peace exists in all of us. So I became really curious, and I really wanted to understand how is it that we're able to leverage these human potentials? You know, I could see the negative potential. I saw that impact. I could start to see some of the roots of that. How is it that we're able? What's happening on a deeper level? And so in 2011, I joined the Shift Network, and it was like a dream come true. It was an opportunity to start to explore peace from inner to international levels. I was, as Dot said, organizing online summits, had the pleasure of interviewing my friend, Dr. Yacoobi, Sakena, and interviewing hundreds of people, and we did it in a systematic way. We wanted to look at peace from interpersonal, community, national, international, across 20-some sectors of society. One of the summits we created, my good friend Emily Hine, who actually hired me at the Shift Network, and she's a dear sister, she co-created the summit inside of Summer of Peace called Global Compassion Summit in partnership with Stanford University, which has a Center for Compassion, Altruism, Research, and Education. Stanford University has proven we are wired for compassion, altruism, and collaboration. And the evolution of humanity depends on us being able to awaken those qualities which are in our DNA. And we're also wired for fight, flight, and freeze. And during these summits, we would highlight the spread of mindfulness meditation around the world, how it's just spreading. We would highlight the fact that companies like Google are starting to teach programs to help people with mindfulness and compassion skills and other skills, because what they're finding is what Mickey Singer was talking about back in Gainesville, Florida. When you're able to go into these peaceful places, you can tap into an intuition and knowing that the intellect can then use. And when you read the Surrender Experiment, Mickey Singer says the design of the software that revolutionized the American medical management software or system, it came through meditation that his intellects did then apply. Now, this is a key idea, because when we're talking about awakening the human potential, It's about the compassion, altruism, and it's also about tapping in to a universal intelligence that can help us find solutions to problems that we can't find when we're in a fight, flight, and freeze mindset. So this is a key idea here. Other summits, finding common ground. We did it with Search for Common Ground, the Alliance for Peace Building, and many other partners. This summit was really fun. A dear friend of mine, David Nickel, is a real champion. He's wrote his PhD on subtle activism, looking at the intersection of science, prayer, and meditation, where science is measuring the impact of prayer and meditation on individuals and large collective groups. We also partner with our Indigenous brothers and sisters, Chief Philip Lane, organizing Global Indigenous Wisdom Summits. All of this is available free online. And thanks to Dot Maver, after several hundred interviews, I'm like, Dot, we've got all this material. It's like, do we create a curriculum? Dot's like, no. No, we don't need another curriculum. We need a new narrative. We need a different narrative. And so what we'd had the privilege of doing, Shift Network's a for-profit company, and they hire me as a director of peace, has this commitment to peace. And what we were able to do is have a bird's eye view of peace the way it's merging around the world. And from this bird's eye view, we can see that there is an awakening, evolving of human consciousness on the planet from inner to international levels. And again, it's not being talked about. And the language in this is very carefully designed. From inner to international, creating a global culture of peace. The United Nations had a whole decade on global culture of peace and nonviolence. And you'll see the topics, emerging peace story. Who are the people who are telling the stories of the new emergence? Whether it's from business sector, indigenous wisdom, or military or police. And then we have family and interpersonal peace building. Then we have inner peace, mind, body, health, this whole area, spirituality and science. Family, interpersonal peace building, community peace building. Our good friends, Hart and Jeffrey, are in there. International peace building, Sakena is in there. And you can see Sakena here. And then planetary peace. This is all available for free, worldpeacelibrary.com. It's the Shift Network's gift to this larger emergence. We also would learn how to teach this online. My good friend James O'Dea, who used to be the director of Amnesty in Washington, D.C., and then the president of the Institute of Nordic Science, designed a training program that I later was the co-leader called the Peace Ambassador Training. It would have 4 pillars: inner peace and resilience through mindfulness and heart math, healing personal and collective wounds through forgiveness, compassion, and racial healing, and then communicating peace, and then mastering peace and organizing for peace. Over 1,100 people in 42 countries have been trained. We've had groups in inner city Oakland, a group of 50 or 60 people take it, inner city Detroit, middle-class people all across North America, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, refugee from Bhutan, refugee from Sudan who survived genocide, Israel, Palestinians. And it was interesting to see that there's some universal aspects that can be adapted in different contexts. One woman said, I took mindfulness, I've done mindfulness, I took nonviolent communication, but I hadn't put it together that it all integrates, and I'm part of something much bigger than me that's awakening around the world. A young man from Bhutan who's a refugee, was using this to help him go back and try to talk to the king of Bhutan about letting his people back in. One man said, I had signed up for this training because I wanted to go out and fight Donald Trump, who was just elected. I was so angry. And he said, after doing the mindfulness, starting to do heart math, starting to look at forgiveness and compassion and communicating peace, he said, I realize I have to reach out to my daughter that I haven't seen in 10 years, and I need to heal that relationship first. And what this reflects is what James O'Dea talks about. The peace movement today is different than the anti-war movement. It's what Dot was saying. What is it that we want to create, and how can we embody? And with all humility, all of us are on this track learning from one another. And when we can learn from one another and find the tools that work for us individually and apply them, we can transform ourselves, we can transform our families and relationships, we can transform our communities, we can transform the world. And we can start to allow that intelligence, which our indigenous brothers and sisters know is guiding everything. So Steve Killalea, who created Global Peace Index, said Sanskrit has 108 words for love, Islam has 99 names for God, Japanese has 14 words for beauty, we've got 1 word for peace. We don't have enough words to accurately describe all the different types of peace. I think it was Socrates who once said, if you don't have a word to describe something, then how can you think about it? We're in the process of really discovering how peace is emerging around the world. And so what we've seen is that there's been an exponential growth of peace-building technologies, from inner to interpersonal, mindfulness, yoga. There's International Yoga Day that happens, celebrated in countries around the world. The spread of nonviolent communication, peer mediation, community mediation, the spread of peace and conflict resolution in schools. All of this has been emerging. 1984, there were 5 colleges, universities with peace and study programs. Now there's over hundreds. This intersection of neuroscience and spirituality and peace building is a very dynamic intersection. And again, people are trying to learn to embody these skills and to awaken their own potential. And there's an increasing hunger. The challenges are mainstreaming and branding. A couple of years ago, Dot invited me to a closed-door gathering in Washington, D.C., people from 40 or 50 peace-building organizations who said the language in the United States is pre-Civil War language. And I'm quite serious on this. And they asked, what are we going to do about it? We have the know-how. How do we help integrate it more and more? So I'm going to speed up here. We do have a global peace system that's slowly emerging. Dot was talking about that yesterday. Mohonk people were talking about that with the institutions. There's also the Global Peace Index, which is measuring most and peaceful countries. That global peacefulness improves for the first time in 5 years, but the world continues to be less peaceful than a decade ago. Afghanistan is now the least peaceful country in the world. We'll hear from our dear friend Sakena. Economic impact of violence is over $14 trillion a year. There's also a new trend with social media. Social media can be used to instantaneously bridge the divides. Israel, when there was tension with Iran, this man starts posting, you know, Iranians, we love you, and people in Iran were replying, Israel, we love you. There's a lot of trends I can talk about, but I want to get down to, you know, and the nuclear threat today is greater today than ever before. But, I mean, that's a major one we could spend quite a bit talking about. But one trend I really wanted to address, and social media has this flip side of being used as a weapon of war and encouraging encouraging cyberbullying. But I want to talk about this polarization. One of my mentors at Search for Common Ground, Susan Collett-Marks from South Africa, you know, she's the one that said conflict is natural, it's how we deal with it. She also said there was a common trend that happened in conflicts. And this trend is that in conflicts, often the extreme positions will drive the agenda with anger and fear. Meanwhile, most people exist in the middle somewhere. But they'll drive the agenda with anger and fear, and then the other becomes the problem. No, the problems can be shared. Economics, environment, healthcare. No. The problem becomes the other, and the way we win is we attack and defeat the other. Now, when you use anger and fear, what happens is the amygdala gets triggered, and the only options are fight, flight, and freeze. And our in-group, psychologists talk about we have an in-group who we feel safe with. And that in-group, our identity becomes one. No, we have multiple identities. I'm an uncle, I'm a brother, I'm a biker, meditator, gardener. No, identities become one. Hutu, Tutsi, Democrat, Republican. And there's a slippery slope. It starts with stereotyping. Whoever stereotypes about politicians, okay? Whoever demonizes. Has anyone ever dehumanized? What has been seen is when we get to the place of dehumanizing, violence takes place. This happened in Rwanda, Cambodia, Nazi Germany. when the other becomes less than human, and I saw a CNN video the other day that showed that the level of dehumanization had increased on both sides, and that there are percentages of people on both sides of the aisle think the world would be better with many of the others dead. So we're in a place where, and what's really sad is media gives as much attention as possible to the extreme positions. So we're in a collective environment of fear. Whereas what peace builders do, search for common ground, is you expand the middle by rehumanizing. Again, there's this assumption that search for common ground has. If people can recognize their common humanity, it can awaken compassion, tolerance, forgiveness, which is what Stanford universities and other places are showing. And when search for common ground, you can rehumanize the other as simply by shared music, soccer. There's one study that shows if you simply ask a person what their favorite vegetable is, they suddenly are rehumanized and they can be part of your in-group. And the goal is to go from attacking each other to standing side by side and addressing the problems. So imagine all the billions of dollars in energy that goes into fighting and defeating the other goes into standing side by side and say, hey, we've got a problem with the environment. You know, we've got a problem with healthcare. We've got a problem with economics. And all of that creativity, let alone starting to open up to a wider range of intelligence to address these problems. I like to say inner peace is a global responsibility, in part from what I learned from Ricky Singer, because when we have that deep inner peace, we're going to be able to have a range of options to solutions we can't find when we're in this fight, flight, and freeze. Now, this is not airy-fairy. It's happening all the time. I've got dozens of stories of people who you would think would never stand side by side and work together. I have a friend who successfully worked with Democrats, Republicans on specific issues. Susan Collin Marks facilitated the first dialogue between U.S. former diplomats and Iranians. And when they introduced each other, she had them talk about something they cared about. And they talked about their families. And they started to rehumanize. And then later they started working together. How do we improve relations? And the Iranians said, it's time for the U.S. to go back to Iran. And U.S. diplomats said, we can't do that. They said, you can't do it, but your wrestling team can. Because they love wrestlers and poets in Iran. And when the U.S. wrestling team walked into Tehran carrying the American flag, they got a standing ovation. So in terms of vision, the climate change is a result of our collective pursuit of happiness. Climate change, when I was interviewing a Swami in India on the bank of the Ganges, I asked him about the world situation. He said it's all natural intelligence. He said natural intelligence sometimes also will use a hammer to get us to wake up. Environmental crisis, politics, or environmental, or economic. So we've got 12 years to turn it around, a lot of scientists say. And so what this is doing is inviting the world to really reflect at every level. Inner, how do we pursue peace? How do we pursue happiness? How do we solve problems together? It's going to take an unprecedented level of collaboration to solve this. Last year I went to Oslo to the Nobel Peace Prize Forum. It was on climate change, and Vice President Al Gore was there. And I could hear everyone talking about the need to raise awareness about the threat, the real threats that's happening. I just flew out from Sonoma County where for the third year in a row we're having fires, and there was smoke in the air when I left. And then there are people talking about the different sectors and from their approach, kind of like the 5 blind men touching an elephant. People who are working on economics would say we have to have an economic approach. Here are the indicators. People work in cities, and everyone had a part of it. And what I was aware of, we have to look at the threat, but if we get so overwhelmed and numbed out and go into fight, flight, and freeze, we're not going to access to possible solutions. And so what I was looking for is climate change. What is the dream? When Martin Luther King gave his famous talk, I Have a Dream, it wasn't about strategies or emphasizing all the problems. His dream was, what is a dream like when we move beyond racial violence, racial tension? what is that dream that we can aspire to? And Dot yesterday led us in an exercise. So when we think about a vision for peace, here's the question that we can all entertain is, how will the world be different when we successfully address climate change? There's already this groundswell that's emerging around the world. Imagine how we can accelerate it in our own lives, our families, our schools, our communities. Imagine more and more people learning the skills, whatever works for them, whether it's Tai Chi or mindfulness, whatever it works, to have that ability to stay centered, particularly to move beyond when being triggered. Imagine being able to heal domestic violence and so forth. Imagine communities, and we'll be hearing from Hart and Jeffrey about the work they're doing in Gainesville, communities really looking at police and marginalized people and justice departments working together to address root problems. Imagine national politics where we're actually working together. Imagine the international going further on this stream that the Mohonk Mountain House and others started. Imagine a world where we wake up, just as our brother Tecumseh led us this morning, where we realize that we are all part of a living essence on earth. We're interdependent, interconnected. And what we've seen is that over time, human evolution often goes in sudden, dramatic shifts. And with the internet today and mass communication, we're in the possibility of doing this. And one Sufi mystic I heard speak at Silicon Valley talked about he had gone into a meditation well before the internet. He saw this web of light around the world where people could experience what others are experiencing around the world at the same time. That people could have an experience of oneness that would take years of meditation to have, and that would become a living consciousness, that web of light, a collective consciousness that would lead us into this new era of being. So the vision of peace is one that we all are part of. We're all responsible for doing our part with our daily practices, in our families, how we communicate. I love the story earlier of the loving kindness. And then in doing as much as we can. And realizing that what happens in one part of the world affects people in other parts of the world, and they're part of our larger family. And so with that, I just want to say again, thank you so much for this opportunity to share and be part of this collective exploration of creating and sustaining peace. And saying hello to my family who's watching right now. So thank you.
Remind folks that there are others not in this room who are joining us. People in Brooklyn, New York, Cincinnati, Ohio, Tucson, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Hi, Mom.
Thank you. Test, good. And thank you, Philip. Not only inspiring, but it's like when Paul Hawkins says, it's not a time to be hopeful, it's a time to be fearless and know, so we can act. So it now gives me great joy, and I feel like it's an honor to introduce to you Dr. Sakena Yacoobi, who is the Chief Executive Director of the Afghan Institute of Learning and is a professor of public and health science. Dr. Yacoobi founded the Afghan Institute of Learning in 1995 in response to the lack of education and health care that the Afghan people were facing after decades of war and strife. She is also co-founder and vice president of Creating Hope International, and has established schools, a hospital, and a radio station in Afghanistan. Dr. Yacoobi has received numerous awards in recognition of her work, including the distinction of being nominated as one of 1,000 women for the Nobel Peace Prize. I have to say, her TED Talk is so powerful. It's so inspiring as she shares how she stopped the Taliban from shutting down her schools. When she shares her vision with us for rebuilding her beloved country, your heart will soar. So today we are honored and blessed to welcome Dr. Sakena Yacoobi.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Hello? Work? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. First of all, it's a great honor to be here. I am very thankful to Smiley family, Smiley House, and it is a great honor to be invited to the Peace Conference. I am learning, I'm a student of learning, and I keep learning. And what a wonderful group to learn from. What a wonderful place to be in. A place of wisdom, a place of compassion, a place of communicating with God everywhere that you look around. What could we have any more than that? Thank you for letting me to be part of your group today. They are telling me why you are doing what you are doing and what inspires you that you do what you are doing. I want to just share with you today a little bit about Afghanistan. Yes, I do not want to talk about negative things, but it's my duty as an individual to really discuss with you what's happening in my country. And also I feel it's my responsibility and it's my duty as a representative of a woman of Afghanistan and children of Afghanistan to share with you what's happening into Afghanistan. I know, most of you know. Most of you know through the newspaper, through many other issues that you know what's going on in Afghanistan. But really, do you know what's happening into Afghanistan? I don't think so. I don't think so. First of all, you know that for 40 years in Afghanistan has been war, for 40 years. And these 40 years destroyed completely the entire Afghan nation. The youth, the old, the middle class, everybody. We have today children who for 4 decades have been in war. They born in war, they grow up in war, and they are young men or young women in war right now. And still there are war. When I went into refugee camp, yes, I was a professor. I had a very good career. I had a good life. But I gave up everything. I went to refugee camp. I wanted to go to Afghanistan. I could not go to Afghanistan. And you know why. When I went to the refugee camp, for 3 months I did a survey. Briefly, I'm going to talk to you, jump from here to there, that you get a little bit the idea of what happened. So when I went to the refugee camp, I did a survey and I talked to women and children. There were thousands and thousands of women. There were 7 million refugees in Pakistan, in the refugee camp. And everywhere that I talked, people even didn't want to talk because they covered themselves from me as a woman. They did not trust, they did not want to talk, and they were so submissive. And I looked and I was shocked. I was shocked. How can you do anything with this kind of a population? What can I do as one individual? How can I reach out? I wasn't ready to help everybody. What I'm going to do? At that moment, something clicked. Education. Education really changed my life. Education really gave me a wisdom. Education gave me status. Education gave me power. Education gave me stability. And that's these people need. Above all, they need their dignity. Because I knew with Afghan people before, we had pride, we had dignity, we have resilience. All is completely destroyed. These people are worthless. They think they are worthless. And how you can bring up that? The only way that you can do it, through the inner peace, that people realize who they are what they have been, how they can come back. And I could not do it just by telling them. I needed to work with them, that they come and they trust me, and I trust them. And I needed to work with them that we build a relationship. We are talking about relationship today. Until you do not educate and you do not have a relationship, I don't think you can do that much, especially in a society that the trust has been broken. These people invaded their house. They raped their children. They killed their husband. They tortured them in their houses. They have to run from their houses across the mountain to come to Pakistan. These people are not going to trust people so easily. And do you blame them? I don't blame them. I don't. So the only solution for this problem is education. Is it education is a short term? No. Education is something that continuously you have to work with them. A nation that has been traumatized, a children who are looking behind you and holding your shirt or your scarf, pulling you. I want to know how is my mommy at home when you are in school. You work with them, you teach them. They want to know how is the mommy at the home, because they don't know if by the time they go back home, if that mommy is there or not there. That is the nation. That is those children are thinking. And those children are brilliant children. Once we start developing program, the first thing we wanted to do, we wanted to build a teacher training component. Most of you are educated people. If you do not have a teacher who goes to the classroom, who doesn't understand the students if they are hungry, if they have been beaten up in the house, or if they are traumatized, or they have disability, or they trust you. If a teacher is not trained in those areas, the teacher could not help the students. The teacher must relate to the children. And the only way that we could do, first to have a teacher training component. And part of that teacher training component was also peace education. To teach the children that you and your brother or you and your sister are the same. And you and your neighbor are the same. You give love and support to your brother, to your sister, to your neighbor. This is something you have to teach to the children through the educational curriculum. And when we start this program, it was very hard. People did not want to come learn because Russia invaded Afghanistan and people were trapped by education. And they didn't want to learn. We have to really work through that. Finally, we work and we convince them that, yes, we can learn together. And once we start, in a matter of 1 year, from 7 tent, we built 15 schools in refugee camp, 27,000 students. That was not an easy job, but we did work through the community. Community by community, we ask their help and they help us, and through together, we built this school, and children were so joyful, so happy to go to school, and we continuously did teacher training. And once we did that, from inside Afghanistan, where Taliban was taking over Afghanistan at that time, they come into Pakistan and they said, we want education for our children. We said, yes, we can do it, but you know what will happen. If they capture us, we will be killed, the teacher will be killed, the children will be killed. So we must have a plan, a strategic plan, how we are going to really help each other to build a school inside Afghanistan. So we sit around the table and we have a plan that they give the space, they give the teacher, and we do the teacher training, and we do the salary and bring books. And through that, we built in 4 provinces of Afghanistan 80 schools. We had 3,000 students. It was a miracle. It was a miracle that people did not kill us. It was a miracle that we were not captured. But when I was in Pakistan, in the refugee camp, and we had our office there, one day, these people ran to my office. They ran and they come and they said that, we want to see me, Sakena. They want to see me. So everybody ran away, of course, to hide. And I was sitting there and I said, no, I can't. As a leader, as somebody who is the head of program, you have to be strong. You have to be firm. So they came and they said, what are you doing? Don't you know that we are not allowing for Afghan to go to school and you have a school here? And I told them, please have some tea. They said, no, they do not want tea. They do not want tea. I said, hello, salam alaikum. They didn't want anything to do with me. They said, show us this school. I said, there is no school. First of all, I said, don't you want to be healthy? Don't your children need to be healthy? We have health education. We try to teach your women to be safe and not get sick. And also we are teaching Quran. Don't you want to know that your children know Quran, holy book? And they look at each other, and then they, in Pashto, they thought I don't understand. They said, she's okay, let her go. You know? Let her go, she's okay. But then you know what I did? I said, please, sit and have a cup of tea with us. And that shocked them. That shocked them. And they sit and they have a sip of tea with us, and then they left. Why I am telling you this? From those times, we start to say the only way that we can bring peace to Afghanistan, a country that, as I stand up here today, we have war, civil war inside Afghanistan. There is not one single day that we don't have blowing up somewhere. A compound, a school, a mosque, an office, every single day, from the capital, Kabul, until to the different provinces of Afghanistan. People are traumatized. People are scared. And why? Why is that? As my brother said, to sell more weapons, to capture all the mineral resource from Afghanistan. How about the people of Afghanistan? People of Afghanistan are human beings. What happened to our humanity? How we can see we are equal while we are killing from right and left by name of religion? You know, as my brother said, Islam is a religion of peace. Salam alaikum, peace be upon you. Islam never allowed that we kill, but today they are killing by name of Islam. What they want to do, they want power, they want to really get wealth, plant opium and get rich. They have no mercy for women, no mercy for children. So how we are going to educate those women? How we are going to educate those children while they are starving, poverty? There is no job in Afghanistan. Poverty is all over. So we must try to really build their skill, that they have sustainability in their life. They don't have good health. We must build clinics after clinics, that they be able to stay alive. And then you will tell me, well, what this has to do with peace? Yes, it has a lot to do with peace. Until we don't tackle holistically the system, we will not be able to bring peace in Afghanistan. People are sick, people are poor, people are traumatized, people are not safe. So all these components must be together because they are like a chain, stick together. And that is EIL is doing. We are working with people in all kinds of direction. We work with youth group. Today, I am jumping. I am just not telling you that many about what the educational system we do and how improve. Today, I am very hopeful. The people of Afghanistan has changed. The women of Afghanistan has changed. They are not the same women that when I was going to talk to them, they covered themselves. Today, they stand up. They stand up in front of a bullet of fire. They are not going to be scared. We are here in peace conference, and I should not talk about gun and tank and bullet. But I have to share with you that those women, for so many years, that they have been behind the door, today they are going to stand up in front of fire, and they said, we are not going to go backward. Why? Because they test the education. They test the educational system that is bringing peace, harmony, wisdom. They test educational program that it means that we share with each other. We are equal. Justice, equality, gender equality. They are standing up, and they are not going to go back the same place, because they believe strongly that God created all of us equal. And God wants the best for everybody. But we must work on it and be responsible. We must protect our value, and we must be responsible for our action. And that is they are learning. And learning those kind of issue today, the women of Afghanistan are strong. We train them, they get education, not only small from grassroots we start, but today they are learning higher education. They are going to university, they are getting master, they are getting doctorate. Our youth group, I want to share with you today. There was a time that every young man was a soldier. Every young man wants to hold the gun and shoot and kill. If you hear my TED Talk, you could watch it and see what happened. But today, those young men, they all are educated. They are good human beings. They understand the precious of life, the way that how life is precious. They learn how joyful it is that you live in a peaceful environment. They learn how they can share, not being prejudiced about different ethnic groups. You are Pashtun, I am Uzbek, you are Shia, I am Sunni. These are not. Today, our young men and young women come in my office and they ask for a space. We give them a space, we give them some refreshment, for thousands of them. They come and sit and they discuss, and they learn from each other. This is, for me, beautiful. This is the day that I really was looking for, and it's coming today. Is it easy? No. Is it easy to have 100 young men and young women inside the compound, and you have a soldier on top of the roof and watching that somebody doesn't come attack? Or I am sitting in my office or doing something, shaking like this, any moment, somebody can blow up this place. Is that easy? It's not easy. But should we stop? No, we are not going to stop. Why I am talking this? Because today, I believe that somebody must share with the world this kind of news, because if everyone knows, they will know that today is for Afghanistan, tomorrow is for another nation. Those people are not going to stop for anything. We must collectively, globally, we must love each other. We must give hint to each other. We must support each other. We must stay behind each other, that we show those people that this is not the way to live. The way to live is mean that to have wisdom, to have love, to have a relationship, human relationship. To have a human relationship, we need a peace environment. We need a peace of environment. We don't have that in Afghanistan. For 40 years, we didn't have. Yes, we work very hard. The women of Afghanistan is working. The children are working. Are we getting there? No. You know why? Because we just reached a little bit. EIL has been working for almost 26 years. For 26 years, I just want to share with you, we have reached 14.5 million people. 14.5 million people are a lot of people. Did we educate all of them? No. Did give them awareness? Yes. One way or another way. We brought them into the program. We give them education in different level. because there were people amongst these people that they were young women, 18 years old, they never know how to read and write. There were 7 years old, there were 10 years old, there were different ages and different level. So we have to bring the system of education through fast-track classes, through mobile literacy, through opening library, having a mobile library, going from one state to the next, carrying the books, because there is no library, there is no books, and there is no school. We built a school. We built 350 women's center. It's like a hub, and that hub from 600 to 2,000 people are in it. They are going through a cycle from morning to evening. They come and go. But we need a school. We need more school to be built. We need children to go in regular school. There are places that there is no school. Government doesn't have a school. Yes, in 4 capital city and 4 other provinces, there are schools. But there are many, many provinces that there is no school. There is the rural area that we work on it. In those rural areas, people will not be able to be safe to walk. They will be captured. They will be killed. So if there is a house, we put a school in it. But there is no school building. The government did not build a school. Yes, billions and billions of dollars went to Afghanistan. And those billions, I wish that you and I, we ask where it did go. Where did it go? How that money was spent? But we could not ask this question, you could not, but I know that if those money were expended for education, today every child will be educated. Every child will be educated. If those money honestly were built a school, clinic, today there wouldn't be a sick person. Today there wouldn't be an uneducated child. So that it didn't. Why I am bothering to talk to you this? The reason I am talking to you, because a group like you believe in peace, believe in harmony, believe in wisdom, believe in spirituality, believe in meditation. These are the components that it can bring the peace, not only to the house, not only to the community, not only to the nation, it's going to be internationally. We need this kind of educational system to have this component. As a matter of fact, not only we need this kind of component in Afghanistan, you need in this country also. You do need. Thank you. I have been several places in this country, downtown area, in Chicago, in Tennessee. These are areas in Detroit. There are a lot of people miserable there too. When I saw them, I said, hey, you know, Afghanistan, yes, we have a war, but here is also a war, drug war, there is abuse war, there is all kinds, there are poverty war, there are all kinds of war. So we need peace education. We need peace education to really bring all the people together. And we believe in equality, gender equality. In Afghanistan, women were not counted at all. Why? 50% of the people are women. If you do not count 50% of your population, you are not achieving anything. So we must include women. Today they are talking about peace negotiation. I wonder, who are in peace negotiation? Who are going sitting around the peace negotiation, around the table? Women? No. Are the women are from different group? No. Are the women from different province? No. Are the women from different level of society? No. A few women, maybe, if we are lucky, who have been always involved, always have been elite group, always have been running around here and there. Maybe they will sit. When they sit, do they talk what I talk? No. They talk whatever everybody's be pleased, and that's it. They completely come out and they said they had peace negotiation. We have to wake up. We have to wake up. Yes, we have to sacrifice. But isn't that worth it? I think it's worth it. It's worth it that if there is not a nightmare in the world. Today we are living in a world that every day, different part of the world, there is a war. We keep producing mass weapon, production of weapon. Nuclear war, yes, there is a very possibility of nuclear war. What we are going to do about it? Climate change, yes. Right now, there are places that people do not have water. In Afghanistan, in the compound that we built our school, 3 times we dig deep well, but still we didn't get water because there is no water. There is no rain in Afghanistan. The ground is dry completely. We have not enough water. We don't have electricity. We don't have tree. We don't have a clean air. This is the issue. This is the issue not for one country, for all the country. We all are being affected by it. So we must do something about this. I am asking you, please, every conference that you held, please share this with others, that we not only have to think about ourselves, our place, but we have to think globally if we want to really do a service. We are a service people. You are, I know, and I am too, you know. We try to provide service for humanity. God told us in my religion that if you are happy, if you love beauty, which is nature like here, and if you build relationship, you achieve all the other issue. Because if you are happy, that's nothing that you hit. There is no hit list, and you don't have problem in the world. If you appreciate beauty, you will not harm the life, the environment. And if you build relationship, you don't have discrimination. You are equal. Then you don't have poverty, then you don't have a war. So that is the way you should live, to really look for these 3 things: happiness, beauty, and relationship. And once you get those, you will achieve your goal. And that's we are working in Afghanistan. And I am very hopeful for Afghanistan. Yes, it doesn't look right now good. As I'm standing up here, the day before yesterday, I had the news that one of the province in Herat province, they were attacking. They killed about 40 people. You don't see that in the news. But every day we have news. Every day we have bad news. But we are concentrating on a good side, that women are changing, children are changing, people of Afghanistan are changing. But again, this last 2 years has been very bad year because our young people, the one who are educated, the one who's supposed to stay in Afghanistan, the one who put a lot of investment on them and educate them, now they are also getting out of Afghanistan. They are running out of the country because their life is in danger, because they don't feel safe. The family try to put everything they have to at least try to pick up one of their daughter or their son, send it away. And that has to be stopped because that's our investment. That is what we work for it. And all young men and young women for every nation, that's their investment because they have a bright mind, they are smart, they are intelligent, they are innovative, they are creative, and they are the ones who are going to run the world, not us. We did our harm enough. I think we have to give the ground to the young people, and that is we are trying to do. And we want to save those young men and women in our country and to try to really invest on them. So I could go on and talk about different issues. My point is that, please, share the news. The international community is running away from Afghanistan. The women of Afghanistan depend on the international women. They depend on the international women. They said that, stay behind us. You promise us. Don't let us down. Please stay behind the children. We have 4 orphanages. We have 480 students in our orphanage. We have 172 street children. We have about 84 or 86 disabled children. They are different institutes that we set it up. And those children are beautiful. They are smart. The children, when we picked up from the street, they were stealing, they had bad behavior, they hid, they did all kinds of things. We handpicked them, and we took them in our compound. And we start cleaning them up, and got a nurse for them, and got a counselor for them. And then provide for them education. Today, when you go in that school, you will see how beautiful they are. They are smart, they are learning, they enjoy it. It's a boarding school, they are night and day, they are there, and they are learning. We have 480 orphanage students. When I went to that orphanage, it belonged to the government. The building belonged to the government. We wanted to open an orphanage program, but we didn't have enough money to build a building, so people asked me to go and see the orphanage in the government. When I went and saw that orphanage, it was a nightmare. The children were beating each other, running here and there, dirty, no food, nothing, you know. Then I went to the government. I said, I will take over this in one condition, if you give me the complete permission. They said, no, we can't. Why don't you support and help? But I said, no, we cannot do that. Finally, we came to the agreement that they gave it to us. And today you go and you see that. You will see a huge difference. That place is clean, spotless. That place has been like your own home. They decorate it, they do all kinds of things, and they are doing gardening, they are learning, they play sport. As my brother said, sport is something that is really help to calm the mind. Children are playing sport, they are learning different things. So these are the things that we are doing. But are we doing enough? No. AIL is one small organization, Afghan Institute of Learning. We do the best. When we start, our budget was $20,000. Today, our budget is $3.2 million. But $3.2 million because of in-kind donation also. Otherwise, it would be $6 million project. We have 1,000 people, key personnel working for us. 80% are women. And we continuously keep doing it. But we need friends, we need support, we need assistance, we need trainer, we need teacher, we need doctor, we need lawyer to come to our country. We run a clinic, law clinic. Before, the woman, whatever issue had, if it was the issue of family dispute, if it was the issue of children, that they take their children from them, if it was the issue of divorce, the women lose. Nobody is there to stand for them. But we open a law clinic, we have 4 women lawyers. And these women lawyers are brilliant lawyers. And they are fighting for this woman. And their cases one by one, they win, and these women have sustainable life after that. And that's the beauty of it, that when you have an environment that you can protect these people and you can support them, they blossom, and you can see the fruit of it. And that is what we are doing. So I could stand up here and keep talking. I'm going to just stop here, and I want, again, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you, everybody. It has been a wonderful experience for me to meet every one of you, and some of you I didn't meet. And from everyone that I met, I learned a lot, and I'm going to carry to Afghanistan, because we are continuously try to learn from each other. Thank you again for your hospitality, and I hope that you ask some questions. Thank you very, very much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Huh. I believe we have a new definition of fearlessness. So we do have a few minutes and would love to, oh, you're ready? I took that off, great. We'd love to invite comments, questions of Sakena and Philip.
This was really moving. Thank you so much. Beautiful talks. So I wanted to ask, Philip, you were talking about that we're wired as human beings for, I forgot exactly, like empathy, compassion, and I've never really heard that before. So is this like a scientific thing, and could you explain more?
Yes, it's both scientific and spiritual in my experience. I mean, the spiritual traditions, the Kriya yoga practice that I do says one of the first signs of coming into contact with soul essence is an experience of peace that opens up to joy and bliss. And it's very scientific. I mean, it's several thousand-year-old tradition, and then it talks about how then that opens up to compassion and then also into higher realms of intelligence. So there's that aspect. And some of the people I've interviewed, Richard Miller is someone who created iRest, a psychologist, and he's working with veterans with PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. And he's been able to show that when going into these states, that it awakens different parts of the brain, that awakens compassion, forgiveness, and another part that it awakens, and Stanford University backs all this up, we're wired for this. The other part it awakens, it's interesting when you're going into these states, it starts to facilitate a healing process. It also awakens a person to their life purpose at this moment, usually in service of a larger whole. And this is a part that I think is really powerful. So we're wired for this potentiality. And then once we start going into these states, and I just want to acknowledge healing, it can be really challenging. But when we're able to tap into that and we expand our circle of compassion, and then we have a life purpose. So imagine billions of people waking up, igniting this scientifically their part of ourselves, and we recognize our connectedness, and then we start to serve in our own unique way for a larger whole in our families, in our schools, in our communities. And it's going to look different in every way. So yes, it's scientifically backed up. Richard Miller, you can look at his work, Stanford University, Center for Compassion, Altruism, Research, Education, as well as some mystical traditions. Yeah.
I wonder if you would share your name while you still have them.
It's Ingrid Beer.
Ingrid, thank you. And for those who will speak, please say your name and then speak.
Yes, hello. This is Doug Stromsky from the Peace Bell Foundation. And I understand both the talks kind of are interesting in terms of children. And the Yale Symposium just did a study maybe 4 or 5 years ago that beginning in kindergarten, first and second grade are the impressionable years in which loving kindness should be introduced to children. And they're finding out that if you can do that until they get to the 5th grade, maybe all this stuff that they're going to be doing on computers and on their iPhones and everything else will be somewhat secondary, or at least it will become secondary after they graduate from high school. They'll see, hey, maybe that was all fluff and it wasn't important. So the bottom line is we have to start a la Mr. Rogers with loving kindness. And he's just came out with a great movie, just had a perfect time. And his whole aspect of treating children with such gentleness is exactly where I think these things have to go.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. We have 6 kindergarten, and they are from age of 3 months to age of 7 years old. And those kindergartens, we are teaching them, play with them, first through playing with them, singing song for them, and then teach them how to love, and also showing them love and compassion, and also teach them as they grow that they can share. They eat together, they do many things. We teach them many activities. And also, as my brother says, that something that children also pick up from the family, from the home, that if the time that they are in the womb, if the mother also, we teach that through our prevention, through our health education, that the mother can talk to a child while she can read for her child while he or she is in the womb, and show that child love and compassion, and that child will be able to share that as he grows, and he will be able to practice that kind of love. So yes, absolutely, you are right. And we are doing through our educational system. I love to have preschool all over Afghanistan. Right now, I have only in 3 provinces of Afghanistan, I have preschool. It's very costly. It's something that, but also it's very precious. And I love them, adore them. As a matter of fact, I should share this with you. Every time that I'm upset, I am depressed, I am in a situation that I just, tears comes out of my eyes, I go to the preschool and I sit on the ground and play with the children, and it makes my day. That's it. Thank you. Yes. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Is this on? Oh, okay. Wow, I kind of was a little bit overwhelmed listening to the story, and like my mind constantly trying to figure out like what can I do, like what can we do, and what would be like the most effective, since you said like share the story, like what would be your perfect, I guess maybe nothing's perfect, but or maybe everything is perfect, like what can we do, like here we're talking about it, and like you mentioned money getting lost, obviously that's a big problem that's supposed to go for the schools and education. What's like the most practical thing that we can do to not just like spread the story, but then what is the action that can happen from it? And you know, is it money? And then if we're sending it, where does it go? And does it get lost along the way? I had so many thoughts. I don't know what I even want to say right now. But the other thing was that struck me was the way that you started with just feeding them and making them healthy, and what you said to those men that wanted to close the school, like, don't you want to be healthy? Just that little connection there was so important. And how do we move other people who may be in opposition to what we're doing to like take an action and say, okay, she's okay. I don't know what inspired him to say that. Probably just like the love that was coming from you, I think really transformed that man in that moment.
And share your name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Lori Sharon. So yeah, I don't even know if that's a exact question, but yeah, what exactly can we do, and how does the money get to the place to build the schools? And oh yeah, I remember the other thing I was thinking about was you said after we've raised these children and then they get education and then they leave Afghanistan, I don't know that what's in your education that talks about them leaving, maybe they're sharing the story as well, and then inspire someone else to come back. I don't know if that's something that came to my mind. Like maybe it's good some leave to share. Like.
May I answer? Thank you. First of all, I would like to tell you that when I said share, it means that you can, in your work area, in your school area, or your business, whatever area you have, when you have a chance, talk about Afghanistan, that Afghanistan doesn't fall out of the radar. That's one of the things that I love my country. I love Afghanistan. I love the people of Afghanistan. I die for Afghanistan because I see so much misery in Afghanistan. So for me to stand up here and say, okay, just help me and help my organization. My organization, yes, we need help, we need funding, but so far God has been providing for us, and we are continuously keep doing it. It would be great to get funding. Also, you can share that there is Afghan Institute of Learning. You can go to my website and see. And the money that you give, I want you know that the money that I had from this country, most of the money that I spent for this organization is my award money. I got a lot of award. And my honorarium that I talk to many, I am international speaker. These are all going to my program. So how dare anybody touch one penny of mine to spend somewhere else? I am a very strong woman, and I am sometimes, and this is give me the point that people think that I'm dictator. For that I am. When I pay salary, I not only expect one job, 2, 3 jobs from people. So anyway, this is my character. But the point is, that my issue is that women of Afghanistan, children of Afghanistan, they need help. They need support. They need to be shared. Today media is a beautiful instrument that we can use positively. You can tweet, you can put LinkedIn, you can go to Instagram, just add about the people of Afghanistan, how the women and children are gaining knowledge, they want to gain knowledge, they want to get education, they need support from international community. If you share this kind of thing in the media, you know, one thing about Afghanistan, that as much as we are behind, we don't have electricity, we don't have wealth, but you know, media become a very, very excellent tool for us. Because if media wasn't there, people will not know what's going on in the country, because people suffocate us. But media allow us that. Everybody is sharing media. Yes, there are some part that the media is being abused, but majority, the people are sharing, and so you guys can share to the media about Afghanistan, that Afghanistan will be on the radar. Thank you. I could talk more, but that's enough.
Sure, I'm certain we'll have another comment. And Philip, perhaps you wanted to address, you spoke of not only sharing, but our unique contribution and how we make a difference in the world.
Yeah, this is the part that's been really interesting is, you know, with the Shift Network, in providing tools and resources to invite people to really go inward and develop the skills. And then going back to what Richard Miller was saying, when a person starts to tap into, he would say, non-dual states, we expand our sense of connection and compassion, that life purpose. And this is a part that's really important. Each person's life purpose is going to look different. And just imagine that we're all part of a consciousness that's given rise to us. Mother Earth has given rise to us. And so wherever we are, that life purpose has placed us in this place at this time for whatever reason. And so when we tap into these deep inner states and develop the tools, then we can serve in our own unique way. And again, I highly recommend the Surrender Experiment, the book, as a good read of someone who learned to follow, Michael Singer, learned to follow what's in front of him. And he would say, learn to serve what is in front of him with incredible love and brilliance, not expecting anything from it, and letting go of my judgments or biases. And he's really a master at this, in the Surrender Experiment. And I strive, and I go see Mickey periodically. It's like, can I get to the place where I can surrender to what is in front of me and serve what is in front of me, serve who is in front of me with incredible love and compassion and the best that I can without wanting anything from that situation. And then learning that there is a deeper intelligence that's guiding everything. So that, for me, that's where I go with that. And then, again, it's fun to watch. And I know artists who are doing this and others. So.
Thank you. Brad, do we have time for one more?
My name is Glenn Milstein. I'm a clinical psychologist and research scientist, and often we're in that struggle between how much do we need science to validate the programs that we have. And a few years ago, I came across a speech by Martin Luther King in 1956, and he was speaking about the beginning of the jet age. So he was a prophet who didn't even know that an internet would happen and the globalization. And what he said then was that it was our scientific genius that has made of the world a neighborhood. It will take our moral and spiritual genius to make of the world a brotherhood. So one tells us what we can do, it will only be the second that tells us what we will do. I wanted to thank you.
What do you think? What do you think? That's a deep question. So we'll turn that over to both the speakers here. And thank you for bringing that into the room, Glenn.
Well, you know, I am myself a person of spirituality. I really believe in spirituality, and I think that it has brought me to where I am so far. If it wasn't my spirituality, I don't think I could stand 26 years of my life this way. That is my belief. And also we have a very rich history. The rich history is that our poet is really the people who have been spiritual. But through these years of war, we have forgotten about them. For example, Maulana Rumi. I just wanted to share with you that. We have a lot of poets, but Maulana Rumi is the best. And Maulana Rumi's poetry is spirituality, equality, justice, freedom, and loving and forgiveness. If you read his poetry, these are the issues that he is really emphasized. And what happened to Afghanistan during these times of war, people forgot. They completely forget about those great poets. So what happened, we are trying to do through conferences, through bringing culture back again, having entertainment, reading poetry, playing classic music of Rumi, and having sort of a center that they are exchange poet between each other poetry. So people are weeping and weeping and weeping, and they come to realize that yes, this is something that is really calm them down, help them to heal, and that is the way to go about in spirituality. And that's the way we are doing through our radio station, and pretty soon through our TV station, and also through conferences. We had 9 international conferences so far about Rumi poetry, and we continuously every year to give 1 or 2 conferences that public become aware and waken up and then use the spirituality. Thank you.
I love it. I'm touched and inspired, Sakena, always, and with your fearlessness and grounded practicalness. I remember when I was in Iran, I was at the tomb of Hafez, the poet, and there was a young woman standing to the side with tears streaming down her eyes, and she came over to me. She asked me where I was from, and I said, you know, California. She's like, how did you hear of it? I was like, oh, we love Hafez's poetry. And I said, how about you? And she just, tears in her eyes, just said, he speaks to me. And I was so touched and moved. It's like, how can anyone ever demonize Iranians when there's this love for poetry? And that's the part is with this question, you know, the technologies. It's interesting. Without going too much into it, the Vedic tradition, Indians talk about yugas and ages of ascending and descending age, and that we had entered this age of Dwapara yugas, energy and technology, and that there would be the potential for incredible devastation and war, extreme disparities in wealth. And then there was also this potential for speeding up, like we're in an age of ascending consciousness. And I remember interviewing a young yogi on the bank of the Ganges. And he said, yes, isn't this wonderful? Here we are on the bank of the Ganges having an interview, and I'm teaching classes online about the ancient wisdom from the Himalayas. And so it's an incredibly dynamic time where, we have the potentials. I mean, it's like all of us, sometimes I get overwhelmed. If I watch too much CNN in 1 or 2 days in a row, I get overwhelmed and discouraged. And then I have to remember, that there's these other parts. And it's just amazing to think that we have access to the ancient Sufi poets. We have access to the ancient teachings of the Himalayas. And all of it is spreading around the world at the same time. So for that bird's eye view, it's like exactly what you said. The technology's happening. Nuclear weapons are available in the black market. Sufi poetry is available online. Yoga teachings are available online. Mindfulness practices. Google's teaching these things. So it's an incredibly dynamic, complex time right now. And the quote that I keep coming back to is the Dalai Lama said, love and compassion are necessities. Without them, we cannot survive. And I just love, Dr. Yacoobi, Sakena, how you ground it in such a practical way in the place that is the least peaceful in the world. And also highlighting the fact that one of my mentors, Susan Collin Marks, said it's so important that we prevent violence at all costs, because once there's violence, infrastructures are destroyed, trauma is there. And so, yeah, that's a wonderful question, so thank you for asking it.
Yes, so I invite us into a moment of silence and loving kindness. As we as a group see this beautiful gathering, the energy of it distributed all throughout the planet. And Brad, if you wanted to come up and make an announcement, or you have it there, but just before, will you please join me once again in saying heartfelt gratitude to Philip and Dr. Yacoobi.
Wow. After all that heart-rendering and informative and inspiring talk, it's hard to believe everything we just heard was only half our day and our morning here. And it seems almost irreverent and inappropriate to stop now just so we can go down and have a feast of a buffet, considering that, there's still 20,000 people a day who starve. However, we are going to stop now for lunch. It's in the Lake Lounge, which is right down at the bottom of the stairs. We will start at 2:15 promptly. I will listen to what Nancy's going to tell me.
And I'm going to remind everyone that across the hall are the posters and videos, and that Sue and the Peace Crane Project are down in the...
Up in the Rock Reading Room, one level up, way over that way. Follow the signs to the Rock Reading Room. To you folks out there on the internet around the world, we will resume at 2:15 New York time. So please be responsible yourselves for what time it is. And if you hear the drum, you're late. See you at 2:15. Thank you. Oh, if you have a special order for lunch, please see Nancy right here.